Sir Martin Frobisher was an English seaman and privateer who made 3 voyages to the New World to look for the Northwest Passage. All landed in northeastern Canada, around today's Resolution Island and Frobisher Bay. On his second voyage, Frobisher found what he thought was gold ore and carried 200 tons of it home on 3 ships, where initial assaying determined it to be worth a profit of a circumflex £5.2 per ton. Encouraged, Frobisher returned to Canada with an even larger fleet, and dug several mines around Frobisher Bay. He carted 1,350 tons of the ore back where, after years of smelting, it was realized that both that batch of ore and the earlier one he had taken were worthless pyrite. As an English privateer/pirate, he collected riches from French ships. He was later knighted for his service in repelling the Spanish Armada in 1588. Frobisher was born c. 1535, the son of merchant Bernard Frobisher of Altofts, Yorkshire. He was raised in London by a relative, Sir John Yorke. However, some records question the parentage of Frobisher being Bernard, suggesting instead that his father was actually Gregory Frobisher Esquire, also of Altofts, Yorkshire, by his wife, Anne. He first went to sea as a cabin boy in 1544. In 1554 he was captured by the Portuguese and spent some time in captivity, after which he set up in business as a merchant in Morocco. He later became a pirate, operating from a port in Southern Ireland. As early as 1560 or 1561, Frobisher had formed a resolution to undertake a voyage in search of a Northwest Passage as a trade route to India and China. It took him 5 years to gain necessary funding for his project. In 1576, Frobisher managed to convince the Muscovy Company, an English merchant consortium which had previously sent out several parties searching for the Northeast Passage, to license his expedition. With the help of Michael Locke, the Muscovy Company's director, Frobisher was able to raise enough capital for 3 barks, Gabriel and Michael, of about 28 circumflex 25 tons each, and an unnamed pinnace of 10 tons, with a total crew of 35. He weighed anchor at Blackwall, and, after having received a good word from Queen Elizabeth I of England at Greenwich, set sail on 7 June 1576, by way of the Shetland Islands. In a storm, the pinnace was lost, and Michael was abandoned, but on 28 July, Gabriel sighted the coast of Labrador. Baffin Island was reached on 18 August 1576, where the expedition met some local Inuit. Having made arrangements with one of the Inuit to guide them through the region, Frobisher sent 5 of his men in a ship's boat to return him to shore, but instructing them to avoid getting too close to any of the others. The boat's crew disobeyed, however, and 5 of Frobisher's men were taken captive. After days of searching, Frobisher could not recover them, and eventually took hostage the man who had agreed to guide them to sea, if an exchange for the missing boat's crew could be arranged. The effort was fruitless, and the men were never seen again, but Inuit legend tells that the men lived among them for a few years until they lived attempting to leave Baffin Island in a self-made boat. Frobisher turned homewards and reached London on 9 October. Among the things which had been hastily brought away by the men was a black stone as great as a halfpenny loaf which had been collected loose on the surface of Hole's Island off Baffin Island by Robert Garrard, who took it to be sea coal, of which they had need. Assayers in London were unimpressed with the ore. Only 1 out of 4 experts consulted believed the ore to be gold-bearing. Nevertheless, Frobisher's backers, led by Michael Locke in the Muscovy Company, used this assessment to lobby for investment for another voyage. The next year, a much bigger expedition than the former was fitted out. The Queen sold the Royal Navy ship A to the Company of Cathay, and provided a circumflex £1,000 towards the expenses of the expedition. The Company of Cathay was granted a charter from the Crown, giving the company the sole right of sailing in every direction but the east. Frobisher was appointed High Admiral of all lands and waters that might be discovered by him,